Enjoy your home for the holidays with store-wide savings at Room to Room. 50% off, 48-month special financing, and as our gift to you, a free accessory buyer's card. There's something here for everyone, including gift cards. Merry Christmas from Room to Room Tupelo.
Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
All right, there we go. I apologize. It happens every time. We gotta love technology. Another soggy Thursday, or should I say the soggy Thursday, now coming to a close, making way for a drier Friday. At least that's what we hope here in North Mississippi. Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 10. I'm meteorologist Gabe Maynor, and again, we are tracking what's left of those rain showers and how that's going to translate into our Friday and really our weekend ahead. We're already drying up across North Mississippi, and we expect that trend to continue overnight. And when you wake up, probably waking up to those dry conditions, but those cold temperatures do return, and it's making the potential for some black ice on those roadways, primarily up there in northwest Mississippi where things are already cooling off. We'll track that here in just a moment, but again, it's going to be a potentially hazardous commute, but we still expect a lot of that wintry effect, the wintry concern going to be further up north into Tennessee and Kentucky, but that potential could be for some of us here in northwest Mississippi, depending on how quickly things cool off overnight. And the big one at the bottom, playoffs and parades continue on Friday. I know it's not just playoffs, it's state championships, but I wanted the alliteration. So playoffs, parades, there you go. And we're going to be live there in Tupelo tomorrow evening. We'll be tracking that forecast here in just a moment, and we'll be doing so at 5 and 6 o'clock tomorrow evening at the parade. Excited for that. But state championships are in full swing. We have our first crown here in North Mississippi. We'll be seeing that celebration coming up at the 10 o'clock hour and getting an update on where West Point stands right now. And a green wave got to get going in that fourth quarter. We'll look at that in just a moment. The first 12, 11 p.m., there's that limited batch of moisture that's still in place. 2 a.m., even more of that limited moisture. And then as we get towards that 5 and 6 o'clock hour, we'll be heading out the door to dry conditions. But with how little that wind is going to be affecting our forecast, drying up going to be a slower process than what things have been earlier on this week. So that's where black ice, more of a concern, not really for the east side of our viewing areas. We'll be in the mid to upper 30s, but out west where things are already cooling off, with that moisture still sitting there on the ground, not exactly a recipe for success. So that's where there could be some patchy black ice for our morning commute. Taking a look there in Clarksdale right now, 35 degrees, dew point still sitting at 35, so a very saturated environment once again. But this is one of the areas of concern that could be dealing with that patchy black ice, depending on how much those temperatures drop overnight. Right now, 11 miles an hour out of the north, those winds, that's really helping this forecast and drying things up. Hopefully that continues to remain in place, because then we won't be looking at any patchy black ice. We'll just be looking at a cold forecast, but we'll take a cold forecast with a non-hazardous commute. Let's keep that going with our camera there in the Tupelo area. 37 degrees, and this is going to be the hot spot here on your Friday evening, 6 p.m. The Tupelo Christmas Parade happening here in downtown, and we're excited to be there at 6 o'clock with you guys, and we'll keep you updated on that forecast as well tonight and tomorrow morning with meteorologist Maggie McCauley, so tune in. But not expecting any winter effects over here in the Lee County area. It's just going to be too warm of those temperatures, so not really concerned. So that's a good thing with our forecast, and we will take those zero concerns. But look at how wet those roads are. I mean, look in West Point, Clay County right now, and I wanted to put you guys in there because you guys are the city of the evening as you guys are playing Brookhaven. But look at those roads, just highly saturated, several puddles developing. Going to be those slick conditions, and you can see the reflection of those lights on those roadways. So yeah, water is clearly evident, and that due to how much rainfall we've received today. 44 degrees right now, so too warm, because if it was a little bit colder, we'd be talking a whole different story, but luckily not the case, and we don't expect any of those effects to get to you guys. Our Mississippi Live Weather Radar, yeah, this is what's left of that rainfall. I have gotten word that there have been a few flakes, but those flakes not forming into anything because, again, temperatures just too warm across the area, but those are working their way east, and as we look at that 3-hour loop, a little bit more significant at that 6 o'clock hour, and even then started to transition. See those pinks developing in? That's where that wintry mix moved in, but Matt kind of broke it down yesterday for us. Wintry mix, that could be a 90 to 10 percentile. So not exactly a 50-50 mix, Now mixed could be 90-10, and that's really what we got with a few flakes mixing in with the bulk of our rainfall. Still too warm, so once it hit the ground, just melted away, and that's a good thing with our forecast because that means we're not expecting any of those wintry threats to be in our forecast. As you take a look right here, winter threats, I'll stand on this side of your screen because you see with these showers right here on our legend, just primarily rain, and that's what we expect it to be carrying over there into Birmingham, Alabama. And when we also look at storm tops, we looked at this at 6 o'clock, not getting anything too significant, maybe a few of those showers out there getting up to 20,000 feet, but that's on the higher end. And these are really just going to be those stratus clouds working their way through the environment, not a lot of lift in the atmosphere, so those those showers stay a little bit low, a little bit short, and that's not going to allow for any inclement weather to develop. That's 2 claps and a good time for sure. When it comes to that forecast, we'll definitely take it. And as we look at our analysis right here, we'll zoom things out to really get a visual on that batch of moisture. Continue to extend off there into the northeast and Bowling Green, Lexington, off there towards West Virginia and D.C. Going to be getting a decent snow event if temperatures continue to remain below that freezing threshold. But that wintry mix extending down there towards Knoxville, potentially our chief meteorologist Matt Lawpon dealing with some of that wintry mix as well. Have to get in touch with him, and he'll give me the report up there. But I do believe that it's not going to accumulate to anything and that he'll be good to go. Don't worry, he won't get stuck in Tennessee. He'll make its way back by this weekend. All right, Chattanooga still dealing with some of that rainfall, but again, all of this extending out towards the east, and what we're left with on the backside is high pressure, and high pressure keeping us dry for the most part throughout our Friday, and that continued to build into our area further into our Friday afternoon. Now we are getting this moisture that's continuing to develop on Futurecast on the back end of that main batch of showers. Not exactly sold on that, wasn't in the 5 and 6 o'clock hours either, just because it's not verifying in what our radar is actually depicting right now. I think that we're going to be much drier than where things will sit at 3 a.m., so those little batches of moisture that we're getting on the backside, not going to form into too much of anything. A lot of that moisture going to be right along this warm front, and we're going to be left here in North Mississippi with dry, gloomy, but dry conditions by the time we get towards our Friday morning. Extending that into that mid to late morning time frame. Again, I think that we're just too far away from this front to be getting any of this moisture developing towards Jackson, Meridian, and up here into North Mississippi right along Highway 82. So these chances right here, potential for a sprinkle or two, but that's the magnitude that we're going to be expecting with this round of moisture. That, of course, going to be higher down south towards New Orleans, Mobile, and Destin. So up here in North Mississippi, the place to be because it is just a drier pattern. So Christmas parade's going to be good to go. Already saw that our friends at Panhandle Weather had to reschedule some Christmas parades happening this weekend, move those a couple of days back just because of how much this rainfall is trying to linger. But that's down in Panama City. That's not up here in North Mississippi. The next 24, 6 a.m., 36 degrees, 9 a.m., 38, noon, 45, and we're only climbing to 47 degrees tomorrow afternoon. It is going to be a cold one all day long with those gloomy conditions. I mean, it's one of those things where you could have 2 to 3 layers in the morning and keep those on all day long and still be comfortable. That's just how cold it'll be. But as we continue into those evening time frames, 42 by 6, that's where parades will start happening. We'll have an update on where those parades are happening coming up in the next 60. We know Tupelo going to be happening, and we're excited to be out there, but we're not the only ones, and it's going to be an action-packed Friday. Speaking of action-packed Friday, playoff action continues with the state championships down there in Davis-Wade. We'll have a full preview of the matchups for our Friday. And of course, we're going to see who won tonight and where that West Point game currently stands for the state championships happening on Thursday. All of that coming up on Mississippi Live Weather at 10, live from the Room to Room Weather Center here in the next 60.
1 in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The Health Class Film Guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. But only you can prevent wildfires.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious. When he began to discover weather, Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynard.
Beautiful night across North Mississippi. This a look in Pontotoc where, I don't have to tell you there's moisture in the forecast because it's clearly evident right there. 37 degrees. Dew points right around that same margin with 36 degrees. So shows you a saturated environment. We are literally in a cloud in that North Mississippi Storm Chaser camera right there. Not expecting any fog to develop, but the potential for some black ice towards our morning hours there in Northwest Mississippi expected for at least some parts. But again, those primary winter threats going to be up north into Tennessee and Kentucky, not here in North Mississippi. Kosciuszko, 41 degrees right now. Still working out that moisture as we are still 41 degrees for those dew points. So a saturated environment continues to be a saturated environment heading into those overnight hours, whether there's rain or not. And winds coming out of the northeast at about 6 miles an hour, helping to dry up that moisture, and that's going to help limit that black ice potential just because it needs moisture in order for it to form, kind of those freezing temperatures interacting with still water. You know how ice cubes are made. Same thing with black ice. Starkville, lots of folks in Starkville right now. This, of course, looking just over the junction, and that's where folks are gathered in Davis Wade enjoying that West Point Green Wave football game as things currently sat. And I don't know the score right now, but going into the fourth quarter, it was 31-19 in favor of Brookhaven. But I want to say West Point putting up a battle. West Point was up at halftime 19-10. And so 21 unanswered points, that's making the difference right now, but it's not an impossibility for West Point to do the same. We'll have updates coming up tomorrow morning with who came out on top of that game. But we are, fingers crossed, Titletown, we're wanting you to get another one, so we are rooting for you here in the north half of the area. So down in Starkville, that's where the action's happening, and things are definitely heating up despite those cold temperatures. As you see on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, the large majority of that moisture working its way on out, and I know Calhoun City is looking at Davis Wade right now saying, really? Now? Because it's drying up. They had to deal with rain the entirety of the game. It didn't matter. We'll see that here in just a moment. But yeah, definitely made for a pretty soggy environment for that football game. As we see right here on some of our totals, about a half inch there through Chickasaw and Monroe County. That's those brighter bands that work their way on through. But the entire majority of North Mississippi, we said not even reaching an inch, despite how long those rain chances lingered. Just light showers all day long, accumulating to about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch as we got into our Thursday afternoon and our Thursday evening. So it's something. It is definitely something. And that something's going to translate to the drought monitor, knocking it down a few levels as well. So any bit of moisture we do get helps this drought monitor look better. And we're already seeing that recede in Prentiss, Alcorn, and Tishomingo, as well as Itawamba County, taking out that level 1 threat for a large majority of those counties. But we do still have that level 3 threat in the heart of I-55 with Grenada, Water Valley, Oxford, and Bruce, still under that level 3 threat. Our day planner tonight, staying on the drier side as those showers work their way on out. So the limited moisture we do have primarily going to be along the Alabama and Mississippi state line. Once those showers do clear out, we will see the freezing temperatures return for some, but 36 degrees is that general average. It's not really telling the whole story. If I could put 30 numbers on this screen, then maybe it would tell the story, but 36 degrees that average. We could see upper 40s further off into northwest Alabama, west Mississippi. It's going to be in the low 30s to potentially upper 20s, and that's why that black ice potential is there. Futurecast working that moisture out of the area. Again, I think it's overdoing how much moisture we have in the area right now, and that's overdoing our rain chances by 2 a.m. So take this with a grain of salt. I would go ahead and knock it back a few as well with a much drier forecast over the top of us by 2 a.m. As we get into the start of our Friday, you can see some of those showers still remaining there towards Pickens County, working their way out of the area into Birmingham and Huntsville before really extending into eastern Alabama. So what we're left with here, Friday, 6 a.m., trying to hint at a few sprinkles. It's not an impossibility, but again, not sold with how dry things are becoming right now. So rain chances, I would say, we're pretty much good once we get past these last few showers working their way across the region, but this is then the story. Low temperatures for the start of your Friday. Over there in Senatobia and Tunica, our meteorologist Maggie McCauley going to be waking up to below freezing temperatures and the potential for some black ice as well. Now that'll be patchy black ice, not widespread, and it really depends on how much moisture is still in place. Those winds helping dry up that moisture, and if that's able to dry it up before those freezing temperatures take place, then we'll be having a good bet. And we'll, of course, assess that in more detail with meteorologist Maggie McCauley on your Friday morning. Make sure to tune in for the very latest on that forecast. She'll be joining you guys with that as well. All right, I mentioned back towards the east, there in northwest Alabama, going to be in the upper 30s, potentially low 40s as well. So it's going to be warmer the further east you go because that's where the moisture is. Wind chill, not going to be much of a factor. Again, those winds helping dry things up. but not really going to be one that drops our temperatures, at least those feels like values, going to be remaining around that same margin. Drop off though, still going to be cold, freezing or not, 35 degrees as we get towards those bus stops or to those car lines, 44 by lunch and 47 towards the last bell. And then it's the weekend, and the weekend shaping up nicely, but those cloudy conditions do remain in place for the entirety of our Friday. So those Christmas parades are almost going to be a pump fake. I played basketball growing up, so I love that terminology, pump fake, because all these clouds make you think rainfall. No, not exactly. And that's a good pump fake. Gets by the defense and scores a fantastic forecast with the left. Futurecast on your Friday morning, staying on the drier side. Despite those gloomy conditions, a lot of this just going to be elevated. I don't really have much of anything when it comes to rainfall on our Friday. Those working their way out of the region if we were to get a sprinkle or two, and that's of course going to be primarily for Noxubee and Pickens County. By 10:30, still dry, and even by lunchtime, still dry. So those gloomy conditions not going to translate into any bit of moisture falling from the sky, and then that continues into the afternoon forecast as well. So pick up from those car lines or drop off from those bus stops. Well, it's going to be a good forecast nonetheless. Don't need to worry about giving those kids any rain jackets. We should be dry all day long. But give them layers. It's going to be a cold one for sure. Friday evening, staying with those dry conditions, and that'll be perfect for those Christmas parades. Of course, we will be in Tupelo. Got a few added to the list, and that's going to be Iuka and Noxapater happening on your Friday evening as well. And we did have Ackerman being rescheduled to Friday at 6. So 4 locations. You guys are welcome to join us wherever. But we do say, if it's not at Tupelo, we want you to send us pictures here at Mississippi Live Weather of what the best floats are, just how the environment is, because we want to showcase that at the 10 o'clock hour for what you guys saw all across North Mississippi. All right, let's go ahead and look at high temperatures, and all of this moisture and all of that doom and gloom is what I've been calling it, is not going to translate into anything hot. Temperatures cold throughout the day, 47 in New Albany, 45 Booneville, 50 there towards Columbus as we jump out west, 44 Cleveland, 45 Clarksdale. Yeah, that doesn't sound too warm to me, so I will definitely have my jacket on all day long, and I expect you guys to as well. Especially getting into our parade planner, 45 degrees towards 5 p.m., 40 by 7, and then 38 by 9 o'clock. If those parades go a little bit longer, Tupelo, I'm hoping that we wrap it up still in the 40s, but that's my goal. Either way, should be a great parade, and of course, we will prepare by having those layers on standby. High school games of the week continue. Of course, we have our coverage from tonight. We'll take a look at that winner in just a moment, and we will have previews from our Will Kohlmeyer on these games on our Friday, but as you can see, Kosciuszko taking on well, that's why we have Will. I don't know who they're taking on. Kosciuszko playing at 4 o'clock, Warren Central 7:30, and then that celebration time frame, because we are going to bring back those state titles. We're going to be optimistic about that, and the Whippets are going to come out strong, and so celebration right around 40 degrees. Still with those mostly cloudy conditions, that's going to be a little bit warmer down there in the Golden Triangle area. Futurecast for your Friday night, again, stays dry. That batch of moisture primarily remaining south and away from us here in North Mississippi, so midnight on our Saturday morning. Friday night, Saturday morning, looking good to go. As we continue that forecast into the start of our Saturday, you can see a sprinkle here, a sprinkle there. I know I said that about Friday. Same case goes for our Saturday as well, but the majority of our forecast is going to be really driven by those dry conditions. You can see that blue, that high pressure inching into our area. That's going to keep those dry conditions around by Saturday morning and into our Saturday afternoon. So going to be good to go. Saturday, we're actually heading up north to Corinth, so a little bit colder up there, but we're going to be at their Christmas parade. That's happening at 4 o'clock and shaping up for a good forecast there as well. Excited to be up there, and again, we're going to try to snap as many selfies as possible and enjoy a great time up there in Corinth, but I hope there's hot chocolate stands because it's going to be a cold one yet again on our Saturday. Take a look at those high temperatures. Slightly warmer than what we'll get on Friday, but even then, we're not talking about anywhere close to our average. 53 Water Valley, 51 Senatobia. Same thing there towards Booneville, 52 Starkville, and 52 down around Macon. We know that we have games on Saturday, a full slate of high school action as Noxubee County starts. Again, I try to mention the matchups. I don't know them. And that's why Will's here. Noxubee County at 12, East Webster at 3:30, and Tupelo by 7. The potential of a shower here, shower there. But again, I'm not overly sold on those rain chances. I think we stay dry for the vast majority of our day. Now, looking at that forecast in our 7-day, of course, it is going to be a dry one for the most part on our Friday and Saturday, allowing for that sunshine to peek through those clouds a little bit and warm us up to 52 degrees Saturday afternoon. Sunday warms up even more, 56 degrees, but that moisture does return. But by the time we get towards the end of our Sunday and that limited moisture moves out, cooler conditions move in place. On Monday, high temperatures, we're talking 47 degrees, but getting a little bit more of that sunshine, and that sunshine will really be dominant by the time we get towards our Tuesday and Tuesday morning, starting at 27 degrees. Bundle up. that's the theme of the day. All right, as we get into the end of our broadcast, we are going to end it on a high note. And that high note was the 1A state championship matchup as Calhoun City, well, I'll let this video speak for itself. That is right. Calhoun City taking home that first crown, and they are 1A state champions in high school football, taking down Simmons 14-8, and that was a great battle. One game that you definitely need to watch back if you ever have the time to, because you want to talk about a defensive masterclass. Defense also might have been played by the rainfall as well. But either way, both teams put up a battle, and I'm glad, of course biased, that Calhoun City took home that crown. So excited for them. Lots of celebrating to be done, and just cool seeing all the Facebook posts about it. It's just such good vibes there in Calhoun County. All right, that's not the end of the show. We also have our Will Kohlmeyer joining us to talk the latest on those Friday previews. Will, take it away.
Welcome to Kohlmeyer's Corner. The state high school football championships are off and running. We had 2, of course, on Thursday, 2 more on Friday, and the fun begins at 4 o'clock as we'll take a look at both of these matchups. And it's in Class 4A. Kosciuszko, the Whippets, 13-1, taking on undefeated Columbia at 14-0. Kosciuszko looking for its first ever state title. The last time they played for a state championship was back in 1996, so it's been basically 3 decades since the Whippets have played for a state title. They've got a terrific offense, and we've talked about it all year long. It's been well documented, led by quarterback Caden Wade. And folks, you need to remember that name. There should be quite a recruiting war for Caden Wade next year. And when you combine his passing and rushing touchdowns, he's accounted for 34 touchdowns this year. He has had a remarkable year, and that offense can score, obviously, right at 40 points a game, and they give up just 10 points, just under 10, at 9.9. So that will be a tough assignment for Columbia. And you see Columbia, what they've done offensively and defensively this year. They have won 2 state titles in the history of the program, back in 1982 and then 4 years ago in 2021. Now, we transition from 4A to the nightcap at Davis Wade Stadium. It'll be in 6A, Warren Central and Hattiesburg. Warren Central out of Vicksburg, led by West Point head coaches Brett Morgan's brother, Rob Morgan. In fact, one of Brett's brothers is an assistant coach, even has a nephew on the team. And they're calling it Morgantown, the number of family members that will converge on Starkville to watch not only Brett's West Point ball club, but then also Rob's Warren Central team. And so that's kind of a neat deal. And talking to Brett earlier this week, he said it's going to be fun going forward. He said right now, mom and dad are over the moon, and I can understand why. They've won 2 state titles, the last one in 1994. And as for Hattiesburg, they've never won a state title. Last year, they basically had home field advantage. They played there at the Rock at Southern Miss in Hattiesburg, but they lost the championship game, so they are looking for their first ever state title. You see the teams, what they basically have given up the same amount of points per game, and that should be quite a showdown in Class 6A. And that will do it for these sets of previews. I'll continue my previewing tomorrow, but for now, that's this edition of Kohlmeyer's Corner.
Well, you heard Will, going to be an action-packed Friday, and that's not even adding to the parades that we'll be having across North Mississippi. So we'll be covering the parades. Will be covering those games tomorrow evening. Make sure to tune in and cheer on the Whippets. They're repping our viewing area here in North Mississippi. But Warren Central, also the North Half champion, they're going to be playing that 6A matchup and going to be a good one as well. So lots to be excited about here in North Mississippi. Love this week, and it is a great one for sure. Yeah. Ricky, why not? How about the Cowboys? They're playing a great game as well, but Detroit, well, they're kind of whooping tail too. We'll take a look at those forecasts, of course, happening tomorrow morning. We'll be taking a look at the celebration with Calhoun City in the morning as well, and hopefully adding another team to that mix, but we'll see what happens in this fourth quarter. You guys make sure to download the Mississippi Live Weather app to stay up to date on the weather, and of course, join us tomorrow evening there in Tupelo. Here in Tupelo. Yeah, we're in Tupelo. And we'll be at the parade as well. And of course, our broadcast happening at 5, 6, and 10 on your Friday evening. We'll be live from the parade at 5 and 6. 10 o'clock, Caleb will be previewing your weekend ahead. But 6:30, 7, and 7:30 with meteorologist Maggie McCauley. She'll have the lowdown on everything North Mississippi when it comes to weather. She'll provide that as well. But make sure to go with a warm cup of coffee because it's going to be a cold one for sure. Can't wait to see you guys bright and early in the morning. Until then, have a terrific end to your Thursday and a fantastic Friday coming up.
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that I would never be able to get over it and that my kids wouldn't have a father. I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. For the longest time, fear held me back from ultimately being who I wanted to. I had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.